Hi, Gordon. So today we're talking about your Celtic spiral ring from 1987.
That's right. The ring, when it's finished, looks like this. And you see that it does have spirals as well as the Celtic knotwork on the top. It is a design that goes through the ring because it's pierced and is carved with the spirals also on the interior of the ring, interior of the shank. And so then the pattern also goes around the shank on the outside. So this ring is very, very difficult to size in the wax or to size, period. We would have to break the pattern and make a blank spot if we're going to go larger, and we'd have another blank spot if we tried to cut it to make it smaller, although this is a pretty small ring.
And is that your tiny little signature there?
That's the way I identify it as being my design, and I usually put the copyright date in there as well, so that I'm dating the piece.
Great,
So then, because we need a wax for every metal piece that we cast, and the wax needs to be made then in a rubber mold, so I can make this rubber mold around the first Metal Master piece, the first metal copy of the design, and then I keep that as a rule for remaking the mold. In this case, I sold that original piece to the client and had them give me permission to make the mold so that I could make other copies. So the mold is vulcanized rubber in a mold frame that squeezes all of this tightly and vulcanizes the rubber, much like the same process that rubber tires are made, but of course this is
so it's heat cleaner. And pressure.
Heat and pressure, yes.
What vulcanized means.
Yes. And so I work then from the top part where the button and the sprue are connected to that piece down inside. That way, this is the way the wax first into this mold, and then later on the metal will go into a plaster mold that really replicates this in a larger space. So I'm cutting with the scalpel down into the mold along that sprue wire because that gives me a chance to know where I am going down into the mold. These rough pieces are called keys so that these
parts right here
will lock the mold, the two pieces of the mold back together again to take the pressure of injecting the wax. So when I get down to the ring, I have to realize that I'm going to have to pull the rubber mold out of the interior of the ring and release that wax from the rubber mold.
And so that's why you have these sort of vent cuts.
These vents are to let the air out ahead of the wax so that we get a smooth injection.
And sometimes we saw like a little bit of flashing if there's too much pressure in the pot along those vents, right?
Right, and this is a poor place. It's an essential place to get the wax or the air out of the mold at the top, but it also makes it vulnerable to pushing wax into that same vent. So when I keep the pressure on the mold in all directions, then I have a better injection.
So how long did it take you to originally carve this wax, do you think?
Well, that depends on my mood. If I'm really in the mood to sit and design, or the schedule. If I've got a client waiting for this ring, that puts the hustle on me a little more. And sometimes if I'm really working on the design intensely, it takes me a while to figure out how I want the ring to look, how I want the parts to fit in during all these processes of going back and forth between the positive and negative aspects that the ring takes.
Okay. Do you have anything else you want to talk about how this is sprued? So some of my students...
Well, yes. So the sprue is the entrance that the metal is going to take when this is, well, in the wax too. So I'm running this sprue at an angle to go into the side of the ring because of the pattern on the back of the shank, rather than just down through the center, which would be more efficient in terms of moving the wax or the metal in either mold. But in this case, I've designed it with that handsome pattern on the back of the shank. And so that requires me to go in from the angle into the edge of the ring.
And you nicknamed it a dog leg sprue?
Well, yes, because it's got a little twist to it. So.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for talking with us.
Sure.
Take care.
Shall do.